All right, fam. Glad you can join me. We're going to go through a basic workout, a regular workout. I'm going to bring you along with me, and we're going to have a lot of fun, and I'm going to narrate it and give you some pointers and tips and just have some cool conversation as if we're hanging out together while we're doing it. So you should be already warmed up, already stretched out and stuff. So here we're going to start with the jab. All right, so that's whatever you want. We'll probably alternate both sides. All right, now I'm doing the cross as well. So jab and the cross. I think this whole beginning stuff is kind of also like our extra warm-up and stuff. I like to do two kind of warm-ups. One which is like generally warming up the stretch and stuff, and then also sort of like a light, unless my warm-up was really comprehensive. I also like to do a second kind of warm-up or go a little bit light with my punches and stuff, and also the kicks. It gives me an idea of where I'm at, also a little bit feel. I can tell right away. Sometimes I can tell right away what kind of workout it's going to be, whether I'm in, how much of in the minus I am, how depleted I am or not. All right? Okay, so let's work on the jab. One way or another, we're definitely going to start out with the jab here. We're doubling up on the jab. Lots of things that we can do with the jab. Lots of stuff that, as you're watching me, you can piece together and stuff. So there's ones where it's mostly arm. There's one where it's combination of arm and your hips and body getting into it. And then there's ones that are really exaggerated, ones that you do a lot of extension with them and stuff like that. But here, I think the emphasis here is doubling up. So what we want to do is double up. Double up is, so we're doing some doubling up on the jab, and then we're doubling up on the cross, which is your rear punch, right? The straight, your power shot. The doubling up is a great exercise because it works your coordination, and it sort of breaks that mold. Everyone starts with like a default mode of or mold of one punch. You know, I throw one of this, I throw one of that. Okay, but when you want to double up on the punch, everything changes a little bit and stuff, and that takes a little bit more skill, and that takes a little bit more experience and practice breaking the mold of what you're used to. That everyone can get pretty good momentum and good leverage throwing one punch and stuff, but to then bring it back and then to throw it back out again, and for you to mentally feel comfortable with that, and that's a big deal too. Mental is a big deal with this stuff. You may throw a punch actually pretty proficiently. You may throw it okay, but mentally you may feel like it's horrible, like it's taking forever and stuff, and so that messes with your psyche. All right, so basics, right? Because we're breaking into it, right? So we're doing the jabs, the cross, and then we're doing the rear front kick. Classic stuff, right? This is just going to be our basic stuff, and we're working out together. I'll start with sort of like a whole nice basic one, and then we'll get into maybe a little bit more comprehensive stuff, so you can follow along after that. Do the whole thing, modify it a little bit, or just hang out with me while I do it, which a lot of you guys might do in cool support and stuff. Just hanging out with me, watching the process, and formulating your ideas in your head as I'm formulating my ideas. And all right, low. So we want to keep low. So it's a little bit easy to punch high in a way because we're used to everything to the face, because the face is so significant, right? You just take out his face. Okay, so sometimes it might be a little bit more difficult to go low or to go properly low. So that's what we're doing here, going properly low. So one punch, one kick, one, right? So and it looks like we're doing the rear, and then we're following it with the front kick. You'll feel the body with it. It'll feel really classic. It'll feel really nice. It's not exaggerated. I'm not exaggerating the motion of the punch so that the kick rides with it. We discussed that before, and that's certainly an option. But just in a regular or a natural type of relationship, that's a very good relationship. All right. So here's a really cool technical one that I definitely would like you to work on and stuff. Don't always rise or reset or come out of your crouches and your defensive positions in order to throw your kick. So here what we're doing is I want you to throw your punches, but also throw the kick within that punch type of guarded position, sort of within the crouch. I don't want you to release in order to get your leverage. I want you to remain low, remain guarded, and you could probably see that a lot with my body type and my size. So you can see how I'm guarded. I'm keeping in that defensive crouch, that sort of small sized or consolidated position, and then I'm kicking out of that. All right. Now we're going to do some, I guess we'll do some bobbing and weaving, some slipping and stuff like that. I think what I'm going to do here is do a little bit of practice of your center line and stuff. So here, it doesn't have to be rocket science. It doesn't have to be perfect, and you know what I mean? But what I want you to do is when you're throwing your punch, I want you to also move your head at the same time. Imagine that your opponent is throwing punches at you too. Because you're throwing a punch doesn't mean that the world stops and the world ends and everything else just freezes so that your punch can do whatever it wants to do. That's not what happens. So now we're working on the center line type stuff, okay? Which is a little bit tricky because your punches want to follow where your body kind of moves, and especially and or where your head wants to move and stuff. So keep that in mind, and that will definitely guide you to how you can work this type of practice and stuff. Right? See where your body moves. Okay, keep your punch still on the original line. Okay, but the rest of your body can move off of that line, and that's a classic one because, as you could imagine, people throw punches at the same time. Wouldn't you know it? So whatever punch you're throwing, somebody's throwing another punch or the same punch at the same time. So you might want to get out of the way. Right? But you might want to still throw the punch, or you already committed to throwing the punch. Or it's a great way to get a punch in because you're going to throw a power shot, but the power shot could be a little bit vulnerable because you're dedicating so much to it. So one way to be able to protect is to be offline when you throw it. All right, we're getting back to some of the classic stuff here. All right, so what are we doing? What are we doing? Is it the lead, and then the instant or lead kick as well, right? The front kick. So what do we got here? So lead, instant, rear, and rear front kick. Cool. And it's a really great exercise, really great drill. They get your confidence up, get you all warmed up, get you into motion. Also, they're your basics that you should also practice a little bit. Don't neglect your basics, right? Messing with the phrasing. So you're doing your jab and your instant front kick, and then you're doing your cross, and then you're doing your rear front kick. The front kicks can be snapping, they could be thrusting, they could be high, they can be low, and your punches could also do the same. They could be snapping, they can be driving punches, high or low. Practice all of them. All right, so what do we got going on here? Right, so when you're practicing with the phrasing and the timing of it, you're not far off from practicing your feints, and your little deeks and your fakes, and you're trying to psych your opponent out or get your opponent to bite on something like that. If you're going to mess with the phrasing and stuff, so everything is not always 1, 2, 3, 4. Some of it is 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4, and of course 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you could do 1, 2, 3, 4, where the is a fake, some kind of, then you're doing great. And we are doing great. So what are we doing here still? Still working on the drills. But sometimes for fun type of drill that I like doing is I like to keep the hands completely down because you're not always in a sparring or competitive or professional type situation. You're not always in a fully dedicated fight. There's plenty of times when you're in a very civilian mode and you might have to do something. So don't always get comfortable thinking you're going to be in this hopping and popping fists raised position all the time. You may not. All right, so the jab, and we're getting that uppercut. And we're getting that type of uppercut punch to the gut. And the uppercut punch to the gut, we're trying to get a little bit of extension there as well. So, which is the uppercut tends to can be a short range one, but it's not made in stone that it has to be short range. And you see what I'm doing? So I'm giving you ideas and stuff. You can bend to get some more distance or leverage in, or you can thrust your hips forward to get some distance in. Right? And I think what we're doing here is we're snapping. So we're snapping, cracking in there and stuff, but bringing it back too. Don't admire your work, and don't let once you finish the strike, the actual striking part, don't take your sweet time bringing it back. Always keep in mind the other hand that's not doing the punching. Keep in mind where that is. I want you to imagine, visualize something. Visualize a target, visualize your opponent, or visualize an idea of what you're practicing or what you're considering is your environment or circumstance. All right, so we're a little bit more than halfway, and this is kind of like our first round. Just walking you through a first type of round thing. All right, I think here the point is I want to get us into I want to get the hook in there as well, and I want all these things to make sense as well. So you're doing a jab, cross, hook, and then the rear front kick. Where have you seen that before? You did that before already. These are the classic stuff. So your opponent can take one shot. Your opponent can take two shots, but by the time your opponent takes a second shot, if they got any skill, they're already formulating and they're already thinking about things to do. So it's very good to assume and to work on stuff where by the time you're in your second shot of your flurry or whatever, okay, your opponent might do something. Don't think they're just going to sit there and take all of your flurry, all of your combinations. So that's really cool to have that hook come from around and catch them as they're coming in on you maybe or whatnot. It's just a classic, really great drill. Jab, cross, hook. And you can alternate between the rear front kick and the instant front kick. You can bring that front kick down into a new stance. You can bring it into a new stance and then switch back to the old stance, or you can bring it right back to the old stance and then switch to a new stance. Oh wow, man, the possibilities are endless, sort of. Right, so you're getting in some punches, you're getting in some kicks. The front kick is a great kick to start out with and warm up. I've mentioned that before. Hopefully you've gone with me and did some practice with the other drills and things that we've been doing. So yep, so we're just going to walk you through like a basic, hanging out and having a good time. And I don't really remember if this was the weekend or the weekday. I'm not really sure. It doesn't really matter too much, but either way, I'm always battling some percentage of energy spent and fatigue and doing other stuff and stuff. Yeah, so what are we doing here? Breathing can be like one breath per shot, but one thing I definitely don't want you to do is I don't want you to get into this bad habit of holding your breath, because holding a breath is very likely to happen when you're trying to get extra strength, because it becomes part of the tensing up. You know what I mean? It becomes part of that trying to gear back for something, so you're right. And because releasing breath is flow, so in the beginning for a lot of folks, it may not be so harmonious. It may not make as much sense as it does later on to be like to be fluid and relaxed, and yet still trying to generate power. But as you keep going, you'll realize that is the ultimate way too, because that holding your breath and everything will start to gradually, you'll recognize how that's resisting you and being discombobulated and not harmonious and fluid and stuff. So you breathe through your punches. You breathe through all your moves. So take a quick inhale and then go through. All right. Now let's do some. I think we're going to do some footwork and stuff and be inspired stuff. Look at this backyard here. It's not as big as you think. And not only that, I'm staying within this concrete little section. Been raining on and off a lot, so the soil, the little grass soil part over there sometimes gets a bit slippery. I think today was all right though. Okay, but we're practicing our movements and movements. So here we're doing advancing. Right? So notice the little shuffle. I want you to notice the feet shuffle. Okay, and this takes practice because it's easiest to throw your punch in place. So you can just do your bend, you can just do whatever, your lean or whatever to help you. But when you're moving, okay, that gets a little bit more difficult. One, because you have to be coordinated, okay? And you don't ultimately have to be coordinated, but that's something that you'll work on later, and that's something I've already touched on as well. And that's master level, to throw your punches in the, non-coordinated, discoordinated, discombobulated, yeah. So here you're getting a really great example of the phrases and the intervals of coordination. Okay? So you're noticing how the punch, and logically so, as you can imagine, the punch or the strike, the force going forward is, inviting your body to go forward too. So, hey, you know what? Why not go forward? So you can advance. Now, you can step through that, or you can glide, shuffle, slide, a little slide. Notice the mark I left across the soil, right? So you can see how I slid across there.